A 28-year-old lawyer walks into a record company with no music background whatsoever. He doesn't play an instrument. He doesn't have a famous ear for talent. He's there to read contracts. 6 decades later, that same man will be credited with discovering or shaping the careers of Janis Joplin, Bruce Springsteen, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Alicia Keys, and dozens of others who defined entire eras of American music. How does a lawyer become the most powerful tastemaker in the history of pop? That's the story. Clive Davis was born in Brooklyn in 1932 to a working-class Jewish family. His father was an electrician. There was no music industry connection in the family, no instrument he grew up obsessing over. What he did have was the kind of pressure a lot of immigrant and working-class families put on their kids in that era: become a lawyer or become a doctor. Those were the respectable, secure paths, and nothing else was really discussed. By his own description, he was going to be a lawyer with absolutely no real sense of what that meant day to day. He just knew it was the expected route. He earned a full scholarship to New York University, graduated with honors in political science, then earned another scholarship to Harvard Law School, graduating in 1956. He did exactly what was expected of him. He took a job at a small New York law firm, then moved to another firm a couple of years later, one that happened to count CBS among its corporate clients. That detail, almost a footnote at the time, ended up being the hinge his entire life turned on. In 1960, a former colleague helped him land a job as assistant counsel at Columbia Records, a CBS subsidiary. 28 years old, no music industry experience, hired purely for his legal mind. One of his very first assignments sounds almost mundane on paper: figure out a contract problem with a young folk singer named Bob Dylan, whose deal had technically become void once he turned 21. Davis dug into the legal mechanics, found a way to keep Dylan locked into the label, and won. It wasn't a flashy move. It was a lawyer doing exactly what lawyers do. But it caught the attention of Columbia's revered label boss at the time, Goddard Lieberson, who took notice of this young attorney quietly solving problems other people couldn't. That one contract negotiation became the first rung of an unbelievably fast climb. Within 5 years, Davis was promoted to vice president, then general manager. By 1967, still in his early 30s, with literally no formal music training and no background as an A&R executive, he was named president of the entire label. People inside the company were stunned. The lawyer was now running the music. If you're finding this as fascinating as I am, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really does help get stories like this in front of more people, and it takes 2 seconds. Now, becoming president of a record label doesn't automatically give you a great ear. Davis himself admitted later in life that he wasn't sure if he naturally had one, or if he simply trained himself to develop one over time through sheer exposure and pressure. Either way, the moment that proved it, the moment that turned him from a suit who ran a label into someone the entire industry would eventually call the man with the golden ear, happened almost by accident. In June of 1967, a friend and business associate convinced him to attend the Monterey Pop Festival in California. Davis had no real plan to go. He wasn't chasing a specific artist, but while he was there, he watched a raw, ferocious blues rock singer named Janis Joplin perform with her band, Big Brother and the Holding Company. Something clicked instantly. He signed her on the spot, bringing her to Columbia. That single decision is widely considered the moment the label, which had mostly ignored the youth rock market up to that point, finally woke up to where music was heading. From there, the signings came in a flood. Laura Nyro, the Chambers Brothers, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Chicago, Billy Joel, a young guitarist out of San Francisco named Carlos Santana, and in 1972, a relatively unknown New Jersey songwriter named Bruce Springsteen, signed for what was at the time a modest $25,000 deal. Davis didn't just sign artists and disappear into an office. He stayed involved, sometimes in surprisingly specific ways. After watching an early Springsteen showcase, Davis noticed the young performer barely moved away from the microphone while playing. He gently suggested that the songs themselves seemed to call for more physical energy on stage, more movement, but made it clear he didn't want Springsteen faking anything that wasn't natural to him. A couple of weeks later, Davis went to catch another show at a club in Greenwich Village, and what he saw left him stunned. Springsteen was jumping across tables, moving like, in Davis's own words, a whirling dervish. It wasn't just movement for the sake of spectacle. It had real spirit behind it. It was electrifying. After the show, Davis went backstage, opened the dressing room door, and Springsteen looked up at him and asked if he'd moved around enough that night. That's the kind of relationship Davis built with his artists. Not just a financier from corporate, but someone who was genuinely watching, and whose opinion mattered enough that artists wanted his approval. He wasn't afraid to override an artist's own instincts either, when he believed the commercial read was wrong. After Simon and Garfunkel played him their fifth album in 1970, the duo wanted to lead with the song Cecilia as the first single. Davis told them, to their visible shock, that the much longer, more ambitious Bridge Over Troubled Water was the real hit, despite it breaking conventional radio rules for length and tempo. He later explained his reasoning simply. You have to recognize when you're holding a home run, and you can't play everything by the textbook. He was right. The song became one of the defining singles of the era. By the early 70s, Columbia under Davis was locked in a genuine rivalry with Warner Brothers for dominance of the entire rock music business. He had taken a stuffy, conservative label and turned it into a powerhouse built almost entirely on his own instincts. And then, just as fast as he'd risen, it nearly all came apart. In 1973, following a federal investigation and an internal company probe, CBS fired him from Columbia Records. The accusation: misusing company funds, including using label money to help cover the cost of his son's bar mitzvah, along with family vacation expenses. Davis was charged with multiple counts of tax evasion. He ultimately pleaded guilty to one count, while disputing the broader implications of the scandal. For a lot of executives, this would have been the permanent end of the story. The press had a field day. The industry whispered that Clive Davis was finished. He didn't disappear. Columbia Pictures hired him shortly after as a consultant for their record division, and within a year he had taken the company's leftover, struggling labels and consolidated them into something new. Arista Records, named after a New York City academic honor society he'd belonged to as a student. He needed to prove fast that the comeback was real. So he signed Barry Manilow, scoring immediate commercial success right out of the gate. And in the same stretch, he signed an artist with almost the opposite commercial profile, Patti Smith, the fiercely uncompromising godmother of punk rock, whose debut album Horses had limited mainstream appeal but massive critical and cultural weight. It was a calculated signal to the industry. This isn't just a man chasing a quick paycheck to rebuild his reputation. He still genuinely loved music in all its forms. But the signing that would define this second act of his career, and arguably his entire legacy, came in 1983. He found a 19-year-old singer named Whitney Houston and signed her to Arista. Then he did something most executives wouldn't have the patience for. He spent years carefully searching for the right producers and the right songs to actually showcase what her voice could do, rather than rushing her into the market. When her self-titled debut finally dropped in 1985, it produced 3 different #1 singles in the US. According to the label, it eventually sold more than 25 million copies worldwide. His instincts on Houston paid off again and again. When she recorded a cover of Dolly Parton's "I Will Always Love You" for the film The Bodyguard, Davis insisted the track open with a full 40 seconds of her singing completely a cappella, no instrumentation at all, before the music kicked in. His own producer pushed back hard, worried that radio stations would never play something that unconventional at the start. Davis held firm. The song went on to become Houston's biggest hit of all time, spending 14 weeks at #1 in the United States and 10 weeks atop the UK charts. Davis remained close to Houston for the rest of her life and has spoken about trying to personally intervene after she experienced a non-fatal overdose in 1997, a difficult chapter in a relationship that was, by all accounts, more personal than purely professional. Even by his own admission, Davis once said he didn't think he'd ever connect with rap music. But he didn't let that blind spot stop Aretha from getting into hip-hop and R&B regardless. Through a partnership with producers Babyface and L.A. Reid, the label's offshoot LaFace Records brought the world Outkast, Usher, and TLC. He also struck a 50-50 deal with Sean Combs' Bad Boy Records, bringing acts like the Notorious B.I.G. and Faith Evans into his orbit throughout the 90s. In 1999, with most of his contemporaries long retired or fading from relevance, Davis pulled off one of the most unlikely comeback stories in music history for someone else. He convinced Carlos Santana, by then a veteran guitarist well past his commercial prime, to record an album of duets with younger, contemporary vocalists including Lauryn Hill, Rob Thomas, and Eagle Eye Cherry. The resulting album, Supernatural, sold more than 15 million copies and won the Grammy for Album of the Year, almost entirely on the strength of the single Smooth. He was nearly 70 years old, picking hit songs for a new generation of radio listeners. In 2000, he left Aretha to found J Records, where he discovered and developed Alicia Keys, helping turn her into a global star, alongside acts like Maroon 5. He later moved into senior creative roles across BMG and Sony Music, continuing to shape major releases well into his 80s. Across a 60-year career, Clive Davis won 5 Grammy Awards and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a non-performer in 2000. His annual pre-Grammy party, started back in 1976, became one of the most prestigious single nights on the entire music industry calendar, a tradition that continued for decades. As recently as this year, that gala still drew an extraordinary range of artists across generations. He died on June 22, 2026, at his home in Manhattan, at the age of 94, following a recent hospitalization for respiratory problems. His family described him as the steady presence at the center of their lives, a source of wisdom and unconditional love, while the wider industry remembered the man who discovered, mentored, and championed some of the greatest artists in modern music history. Patti Smith, the punk icon he'd signed back in the 70s purely out of belief in her art, posted a tribute thanking him for transforming music and for believing in her for half a century. Years earlier, when asked what had carried him through 6 decades of an industry that kept reinventing itself around him, Davis didn't talk about charts or contracts. He said music is a necessary, basic ingredient in people's lives, something that technology might change the delivery of, but could never make obsolete. A lawyer who started out with no real ear for music ended up spending his entire life proving exactly how essential that ingredient is, one legendary artist at a time.